So if you'd like to continue to support us, you can donate to, well, the page is gone, but inshallah most of you have our bank account details. There we go. You can donate to our bank account details, which are up on the screen there, and use the reference youth, and we'll make sure to dedicate those funds for our ongoing youth programs that we run after the month of Ramadan, inshallah. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Alhamdulillah, we might have some new faces tonight, so I'm just going to go over how we do these Q&A sessions. As I said, we are approaching the end of the month. This is our second last Q&A session. Inshallah, tonight we'll have Q&A, and then tomorrow will be our last Q&A session. And I believe we'll have one or two more programs. One more program before the end of the month, inshallah. On Thursday night. So both these Q&As today and tomorrow are on the topic of marriage, which is a very important topic, especially for, well, not just the younger generation, but the older generation as well. Tonight we're going to discuss challenges prior to marriage, so people looking to get married and things like that. Tomorrow we'll discuss, I guess, challenges and how to have a successful marriage, obviously after getting married. So the way these Q&As are designed to give the audience, yourself, an opportunity to ask questions to the Sayyid who will interview tonight. The way you ask questions is you go on to menti.com. So the instructions are on the screen there. You go on to menti.com on your phone. You type in the code that's displayed on the screen, and you can submit any number of questions that you want. And inshallah, throughout the session, I'll initiate some discussion with the Sayyid on the topic, and then I'll refer to the questions that are coming in through Menti, and I'll ask them on your behalf, inshallah. With that, please join me now in welcoming Sayyid Ali Al-Ghadawi, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Praise the salawat for the well-being of the Sayyid. The topic of marriage needs no introduction, so we'll get straight into this. Feel free to send your questions anytime you want. First thing I wanted to start discussing with you, Sayyidina, is the importance of marriage in Islam. As we know, the famous tradition from the Prophet, he talks about marriage being half of our religion. What is the wisdom behind that? Why is marriage considered half of our religion?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله حجة الحسن واللعن على أعدائهم. Of course, no nation can deny the importance of marriage because it's the smallest community, we can say. And if you can start to make a good community from those smallest communities, you will succeed in the bigger community as well. So Islam is no exemption. Islam wants to build a broader, good community by starting from very beginning, and that is the family. And family can be started through marriage. And with marriage, as you know, you will feel responsibilities. You will feel that you are responsible for someone. It's not only you as a man or as a woman, but also someone else. Not only you and your husband, but also your kids. Not only your kids, then the family from the husband's side and the family from the wife's side as well. So it's all about responsibilities and somehow behaving So it's not only about desires. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the desires in human beings, so they can, according to our narrations, they will go and find a man, find a woman, or a woman will get a husband. Otherwise, we are selfish as human beings, to be honest. We'd like to be alone. But the good thing about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, He not only from the materialistic side, also emotionally we need man need woman, and woman need man sometimes. And we have some differences, and I'm not going to talk about that a lot, but it's obvious. Sometimes if you want, I'll give you some simple examples. You try to find something, but you can't. But it's going to be very easy for a wife, your wife, or a woman to find that thing, because the way she looks at things is different from you. So you can somehow complete each other's. Man can complete a woman, and a woman can complete a man. Man takes care somehow of the family from an angle, and the lady and woman and mother takes care of the same family from another angle. And it's very important. So it's unavoidable. It's a must. It's something that we need. So when we say that Islam encourages us to get married, to have family, it's not because simply it's something that you have to do while you don't know the cause lays down behind it. No, we can understand. We can see. And even you see that some even old people, if they don't get married for any reason, when they get old, they feel that they need someone. They need someone. So why they need emotionally they need someone. They need someone to talk to. They need someone to rely upon, to expose their secrets to that person, to the partner. They need a partner. So لعمري, as they say in Arabic, I swear that it's something very obvious, that undeniable, that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said and what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said is something that we can really feel. It's not something that we need to just accept what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said because Allah said it, but we can feel it, and we can feel the importance of it as well.
Alhamdulillah, Allah grants all the opportunity to get married. So many blessings with marriage that you mentioned there, and those who are married will know exactly what he's talking about. It's a sense of responsibility, sense of committing in raising family, looking after children, caring for one another, nurturing each other, supporting each other. Alhamdulillah, there's no other way to experience that. As expected, lots of questions coming in. Already 14 questions. I'm going to preempt by saying we're not going to get through all the questions, but please send them through, and I'll try and organize them in some sort of theme and ask them collectively, inshallah. As I expected, a lot of the questions are coming through on the challenges of finding a spouse in the West. And there's a lot of obstacles around that which we can discuss one by one, but in general, what would you recommend, or what is the way for people to find spouses in this kind of culture?
Well, I propose and I suggest when you go to Islamic healthy gatherings and stay connected with your brothers and sisters, in those Islamic gatherings, you will find, usually, hopefully, the best person for yourself. In other words, how should we know each other? In the streets or in healthy gatherings? Of course, in healthy gatherings. So probably attending mosques more frequently, attending husayniyat, majalis, so you will be known to the community. This person is a pious person. And actually, this is one of the reasons of Ahlul Bayt and Quran persuade us or encourage us to go to mosque, because mosque back then, the era of the Prophet, used to be the head of the government. So the Prophet ﷺ used to rule in the mosque, used to be the qadi, do the qada, and deliver verdicts in the mosques, and used to answer queries of people in the mosque. So mosques and of course Husseiniya centers in general are very important. So one of the best way probably is that, and of course family connections, and listen, some might ask, okay, I'm not getting anyone to come to me, am I not that beautiful, or am I not that, I don't know, wealthy, and etc. It doesn't work like that. It's all in Almighty God's hands. However, we can play a role in our future. If someone's not that beautiful, but she has very good akhlaq, mutadayyin, of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help her. If someone's not wealthy, but his akhlaq, manners are excellent, so you can feel that, you can smell that, you can live his akhlaq. When you see him, you can see that he's trying his best. Of course, at the end of the day, we are not perfect. We might commit sins. We might make mistakes. But by two things. So go on those gatherings, sacred gathering, and the second thing is try to be good Muslims, good followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. That would help. And of course, the third thing is ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as simple as that, to favor you with good husband or good wife. This is something that you should ask Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Say even for kids, Imam Ali, the commander of the faithful, says, إني ما سألت الله أطفالا نظر الوجه. I didn't ask for beautiful kids, rather I asked for religious and mindful and behaved kids. So they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So yes, there are some procedures we have to follow. We can't simply just it doesn't work like that. Sometimes it might, but usually it doesn't work like that for Muslim communities to find a spouse outside. Usually we are more closed community, so usually it works like that. We find our spouses in centers, in Husseiniyyat, in masajid, etc. Usually it works like that.
Thank you, Sayyidina. If it's okay, I might just focus on some of the points you mentioned. One of the things you said, one of the places we should look for spouses is the sacred places like the mosques and the centers and these kind of gatherings. One of the concerns and I guess the challenges people have is that our community tends to segregate genders quite a lot. As you can see, in the mosque here, for example, normally the women will be in the back, completely segregated. Two separate doors, there's absolutely no contact whatsoever, there's no way for them to meet or get to know each other. And most programs you go to are similar like this. So you say come to the mosque to meet people, but you don't meet. So can you talk a little bit more about that? How do we meet someone when we can't actually see them or interact with them?
I don't mean that go to mosque and try to find your spouse directly in the mosque. This is ridiculous, you know. What I mean is, of course, if you go to mosque, I'm not talking about the spiritual side of going to mosque, but the normal thing that we can see, people will know each other better. Families will know each other better. So this is how it works in our culture and our community. So, of course, if you just sit back in your house, you don't attend, no one will know that you've got 3 daughters in your house, good daughters, but if they go to mosque, families will know, and then they will come and make the proposal. It works like that. Usually it works like that. So this is one of the things I had to actually explain more, because we as community, I know, as youth who live in the West, they might be able somehow, or sometimes, to choose their spouse. That's possible. And they might choose the right person. I don't have any problem with that. But what I'm talking about, the broader community and the culture of an Islamic community, it works like that. So mosques, centers, Husseiniyyat are the best places so people, families, tribe can know each other's more, and then it's gonna work the connections. And believe me, through ladies you can find a best spouse. This is how it works, because they know each other's better than you know a woman, of course, as men know men better than women knowing men.
Thank you, Sayyidina. Appreciate your responses. Because this is quite a prominent issue, we do get a lot of questions about it, and there's a lot of questions coming through about it as well. If I may, I'm just going to ask one more question on this, and then inshallah we'll move on. Mosques aside, let's think about just the general society that we live in. The brothers, I'll speak for the brothers since I'm about one of them. We go to these sacred places, we have limited interactions with women. We go outside of our community, we're having interactions with the opposite gender all the time. At university, we're sitting in classrooms with non-Muslim women, interacting with them professionally, no problem. At work, same thing, we're interacting with people. The only exposure that men are getting to women is the non-Muslims. And I understand where you're coming from, that yes, we can get to know families and the families can introduce us to people, but sometimes we don't have those connections. We may not be from an Iraqi community, we might be Lebanese, we might be reverts, can't even speak Arabic. There's 100 people sitting in the audience now. There's probably some people that people don't even know. What is the issue with, outside of these sacred places, holding kind of controlled gatherings where the genders are together but not mixed in a way that can create haram kind of interactions, and that way they can get to know each other. We're discussing religious topics. I mean, just to give a personal example, I met my wife at university, and we had a society, Ahl Bayt Society. It was like a club where we spread the message of Ahl Bayt at the university, and we had men and women working together in the organization, and alhamdulillah, that's how I got to know my wife and proposed to her. What is the issue with that sort of interaction?
Listen, as long as you stay within the Islamic limits and laws, there's no problem with that. But the other thing that we have is the culture. If your culture, for instance, someone's culture, accept him to go out and probably find a wife in the university. And as you said in a gathering, in an Islamic community. That's exactly what I said. So you're not looking for a friendship, one of your classmates. No, it didn't work like that for you. It actually was a center, some sort of gathering, some sort of community. So it's the same idea. But let's say no, we go beyond that. Yes, you go to a university, you find a decent girl, and you wanted to marry her. Of course, you can do that. You think that she's a good girl. You see that she's decent, she wears properly, she talks properly, and you want to ask for her hands. That can be. Nothing is wrong if your culture allows you. Because listen, cultural things not necessarily are religion. Sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. So it depends on your culture. If you can convince your family, you're not going to raise any issue, problems, that's up to you. And you can handle that, yes. But sometimes it doesn't work like that. And of course, if sometimes you go and get your wife and you choose your husband from an Islamic community, it doesn't work sometimes like properly. That's a possibility. So what I'm trying to say, don't mix between our culture and our religion. It's different. So we have to choose our wives, our husbands wisely in accordance to our Islamic jurisprudence. And this is different from culture. This is our limit. So if you can handle the culture angle, go ahead. No problem with that. And if you can't, it's your decision. It's your life. You have to evaluate every step that you want to take. And also the other thing is, yes, nowadays is different from before. For instance, 30 years ago, you wouldn't be able to find a wife while you're studying in university because limited women used to study. Limited Muslim women used to study in university. But now it's different. Would that be possible? Yes, maybe. Or in your workplace. Is that possible? Yes. But at the end of the day, you have to put that in your mind. You want to find a mother, not only a spouse for yourself, a mother for your kids. So you are actually deciding on their behalf. And she is deciding on their behalf as well. So you as women will decide the father. You will choose the father for your kids. So choose the father wisely and choose the mother wisely. This is very important.
Thank you, Sayyidina. It's an important distinction to make between culture and religion. And while there is that difference, it's also important to navigate the cultural traditions carefully so as to not cause difficulty and trouble, especially as you're entering into a new relationship with another spouse and another family. All right, moving on from that, there's a couple of questions on what is the way to approach a spouse if I do find someone that I'm interested in. What's the recommended method for me to approach or express interest? Is it okay for the female to express interest, as some would say Lady Khadija did, alayhi salam?
Again, this is something cultural, traditional, it's not religion. Yes, of course. And actually, I wanted to mention that. And I've seen, even in, listen, I'm from a religious family. I've seen sometimes it works otherwise. So the father of the girl goes and make the proposal for the boy. That happens. No problem with that. Or the girls ask, yes, I'd like that person to be my husband. Go and talk to the family. This is possible. It's cultural. It's not traditional. It's not something religion. As you said and you mentioned about Sayyidah Khadija, salamullahi alayha. That can work sometimes. Why waiting for your daughter? Sometimes it can work. It can work. If you see a decent man, go and talk. Not directly probably to his father or her mother. That's possible. So if you think that this person is an appropriate person, don't worry and go talk. It's easy. They either say yes or no. They're not going to hit you back. Okay? So it's possible. It's this is tradition. This is a traditional way of living. But we can sometimes break those traditions for the sake of our kids.
Thank you, Sayyid. Just a few more questions on this topic. What is a criteria, or what is a criteria you can recommend to select a spouse according to the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the Ahlul Bayt? What are the sort of qualities that we should look for in a spouse?
Well, for husbands, in accordance to our narrations, خُلُقُهُ وَدِينُهُ. Not his wealth, rather his akhlaq. Not his how he looks, rather his religion. So for the lady should be the same thing as well. Of course, usually men look for the beauty side of the lady, but in accordance to our narrations, they say, no problem with getting married to a beautiful woman. The problem is, don't aim a lady for her beauty. This is wrong. Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam say that. Rather aim her for her religion, for her akhlaq, for her family. And actually about ladies we have in our narrations, see her family as well. See her family. Go and sit with the potential brother-in-law that you will have, you will make. So who is he? So you can understand the akhlaqiyat and the manners of the lady as well, the woman. So yes, it works like that.
Nice and simple. Seems like in both cases, look for their akhlaq and their faith and their religiosity.
Yeah, just add one more thing. Listen, sometimes they say, okay, the age difference between the man and woman is something that you cannot tolerate. 20 is, of course, this is a little bit ridiculous, we can say. But no, some things are, we should consider those things. Yes, the man is 25, lady is 20. We can't say, okay, my daughter is 20, this man has very good akhlaq, he's 65. What do you mean, man? 65, this is inappropriate. Is it haram? No, it's not haram. It's not only about what's halal, what's haram. But you're going to ruin her life. No, he's a very good man. So, he can go and get, he's a very good man. There are too many good ladies, 50 years ladies, very good ladies. Let him go. If he's very good and very humble, let him go and get them. So why are you trying to get the 20 years old woman? So this is ridiculous. We have to consider that, to be honest. So when I say only khuluquhu wa dino, it doesn't work like that, only khuluquhu wa dino. There are too many other factors as well, but those factors are very, very obvious that we don't need to talk about.
Hassan said, common sense, I guess. But I guess the point you're making is that should be our priority. That's what we focus on, and then we start seeing what else, what other boxes we can tick as a bonus. There's a lot of questions on, I guess we might have to go back to this topic a little bit. What can the community do? Does the community have a responsibility, or do the scholars have a responsibility to create systems or registers or lists of people who are single, for example, or create incentives for people to look for spouses in the community, or make it easier for them to find spouses in the community? Is there something the community should be doing to encourage that?
I'll start with myself, scholars. I'm not going to take any responsibilities. No, of course, the community has a duty here. Probably sometimes, if you see that in this, for instance, in Melbourne, if you see that there are too many divorces happening, we have to establish a team so we can try to reconciliate between couples. This is very important, to find what is the problem and stop the problems. And this is very important. And of course, if you see in a community that people are not getting married in appropriate ages, we have to probably establish a gathering or a team to fix the problem. This is very important. It's very important. And I believe we have to have both teams now. Listen, when a couple decide to divorce, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَبْعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهِ. They just can't simply say, okay, I want to divorce her. And they say, yes, it's my choice, it's her choice. And it doesn't work like that. When you wanted to get her, it wasn't your choice. You dragged us as family. So now we need to talk. Probably we can help you solving the problem. And again, for marriage, we have to make it as easy as possible. As community leaders. And I can remember probably 15 years ago, an Afghani guy asked for a hand of a Lebanese girl, and her father was a scholar. And he asked me to read the aqd with him. And he said, when this guy came to me, I thought to myself, what response I will have in the day of judgment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if he tells me, why you didn't give your girl to that man? What was wrong with him? I saw that I have no excuse. That's why I accepted. So he thought about it. His religion, his akhlaq are good. So he decided to go with that marriage. So we have to make it as easy as possible and as simple as possible. And this is something that the community should do. For instance, let's say a community leader. Of course, humbleness is very important. You don't need to spend $20,000 just for the marriage ceremonies. I'm talking to ladies, okay? Because, no, my friend did that. Live DJ, you don't need all of that. Make it as easy as possible. It won't start from men, to be honest. It will start from women. Make it as easy as possible. And men should make it as easy as possible so we can establish a healthy relationships. We can make it much easier for a couple to build a healthy relationship.
Thank you, Sayyidina. You touched on another topic that is quite important to discuss, and a lot of questions coming through on that as well, and that's about barriers to getting married that are often forced on us by others. So I'll ask you a series of questions on that, starting with this one, and this is related to the revert community. Reverts often face barriers when trying to get married due to having their non-Muslim past held against them. And the strength of their iman is questioned because they're reverts. How do reverts overcome this? How do we get over this cultural, I guess, negativity or bias towards reverts?
One of the things that reverts should do, listen, they need to gain the trust of the community. So if we say that a revert got married, a successful marriage, this is 1 person, 2 person, 3 person, 10 families, so the community. So we're talking about the culture thing. Of course, there is no problem religiously with a revert getting married to a Muslim guy or a revert getting married to a Muslim girl. No problem with that. So we're talking about culture at the moment. So culture, to change a culture, you need to work. You need to work a lot. So you can probably establish a group, and then one of you bring some examples. Step by step, definitely will be able to succeed in this, and people will get used to it. What is the difference between a revert and a Muslim? Nothing. To be honest, nothing. What is the difference between Hur ibn Yazid and al-Riyahi? I can say he was revert. He wanted to kill Imam al-Hussein. He banned Imam al-Hussein from going back to Medina, okay? And the rest of Ahlul Bayt Ashab, same thing. All of them are companions of Ahlul Bayt. So Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam used to treat reverts as Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ أَلْقَى إِلَيْكُمُ السَّلَامَ لَسْتَ مُسْلِمًا. Do not say to those who say, yeah, salamun alaykum, we are Muslim. Do not say that, no, we have to, you are not Muslim yet. No, they are. And of course, sometimes we have to test them, we have to try. Yes, a father-in-law, a potential father-in-law has the right to be a little bit curious about this person. He might ask him, he must test him, of course, but if he sees him, for instance, attending majalis for 3-4 years, attending mosque, so that, in that way, he doesn't need to prove, but everyone will be convinced that this person is a revert and he's a proper Muslim, so they have to treat him as the rest of the community. It's something very obvious, so it's cultural, more cultural thing that we need to change the culture, and we need to change their views and how they look at convert people.
Thank you, Sayyid. My experience with the revert community is a lot of them tend to be more dedicated and more committed to seeking the truth and understanding the religion, because they don't come from a background where they were just taught to be Muslim without recognizing its importance. So actually, if I have any daughters, inshallah, in the future, I'd very happily invite revert community to be part of our family, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There's questions about knowing when you're ready to get married, and do we need to be financially stable? Of course, the narrations kind of allude to that. You know, you don't need to worry too much about how much money you have, but at the end of the day, we've got to be realistic. You know, owning a home in this day and age is very difficult. Might be studying, or might have a lot of stress. Is it a good idea for us to get married when we're not financially stable? How do we get ourselves ready? Maybe the culture is such that the family won't accept us if we're not financially stable. So how important is that financial stability? What advice can you give us on readying ourselves to marriage from that angle?
You don't need to own a house to get married. You can rent a house to get married as well. And you don't need to be wealthy to get married, but you have to have a job to get married, because you're responsible not only of yourself, but also of someone else, okay? So if you go to work, if you think that you can afford renting a house with this minimum wages that you have, of course you are ready to get married. And if a lady thinks that this man can build a better future for her, a brighter future for her, she can say yes to this man. Now he's not, okay, that wealthy, but things might change. And even if that situation doesn't change, but still they can live. They can live humbly. Nothing is wrong with that. So whenever you feel that you can take the responsibility, and you are trying, not only sleeping back in your home, your father goes and brings food for you, and your mother washes the dishes and cook for you, and you say, I'd like to get married. What do you mean you'd like to get married? You don't take even the garbage outside, you know? You're not taking the responsibility of the garbage. You have to be the garbage man of the house for a couple of months so we can test you, start the test with that. This is an example. Somebody has to do that. Are you taking the responsibility? Because if you get married, believe me, you will do the job. You have to focus on that. I'm giving you an example. If you see that you can take the responsibility and you are trying for that, you have a job, you're not be able to get a very big house, to rent very big, but you can do that, of course get married. Why you want to stay single? Well, you can. Probably then later you can rent a bigger house or buy a house. Don't wait for later. Wasting your time, wasting your life, wasting your youth. So probably in the future you can do something better. No, go with it. Go with it. Go with it and enjoy the real taste of the life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created every human being to taste the taste of the life. Enjoy that and take the responsibility and have the courage and do so and stand up and tell your father, I'd like to get married.
Thank you, Sayyidina. Obviously, there's some foundational things we need to keep in mind. Obviously, you need to have a job. Obviously, you need to be comfortable. But you're right. I have heard a lot of the brothers talk about, if I don't own a house, I don't want to get married. You don't need to own a house. I didn't even have a job when I proposed. It's not about me, but just to give an example. I'm still studying, so... alhamdulillah, that gave me a deadline to then get a job. And if it wasn't for that deadline, it probably would have taken a lot longer. So alhamdulillah, Allah's blessings come through when you do start the process and get married. And you can convince the parents. We're all good salesmen. I promised them I'll have a job by the time we get married. So inshallah, it's not a problem at all for the brothers. And if I can say one more thing as well, just to add to what you're saying, when you do get married, although it can seem like a daunting process, that love and companionship that you have for each other, it makes your life a lot easier. Even if you have these difficulties, even if you think you're going to have these financial troubles and you're stressing about everything, don't worry, Allah will sort things out. You and your partner will work things out, and that will actually strengthen your bond together. So have a job. You can't go in there without a job, or at least have a plan to have a job. But you don't need to be a millionaire to get married. A couple of questions as well coming in on this topic. What do I do if I found a good spouse that I like and ticks my criteria and they're religious and they have good akhlaq, but for whatever reason my family doesn't want to accept them. My father, my mother, just don't want to accept them for various reasons. It could be cultural reasons, like, oh, you're still studying, focus on your studies, get an education first, don't worry about getting married, or whatever. They don't like something about him that may not be important. How do we navigate that? Can we challenge our parents? Can we go against them? Does this vary if it's male or female? What advice can you give us to get around these kind of obstacles?
Well, before I answer to this question, I have to say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically talked about not being wealthy and getting married. And يَكُونُ فُقَرَاء يُغْنِهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. When he says, if you are poor, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will suffice you. Sahih la? Yeah, suffice you with His ghina and His wealth. So what I want to say, that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have to have a job. No, you have to work, even if you are poor, but you have to try. So you have to have the sense of responsibility. And as for your question, I cannot give you a general answer to that. If your parents don't agree with you and etc., so I say, okay, fight, challenge them. No. This should be studied. Every case should be studied individually. So sometimes, yes, we might say yes, try to convince them, try to challenge them, but sometimes we say no, they are right. So it doesn't work like that. Yes, go challenge and go fight for it. It's your life, it's your future. No, because sometimes, because they have more experience than you, they might want you to have a better life. Yes, if they tell you, okay, we want you to go to buy a house and then to get married, you can understand that. This is ridiculous, okay? So you have to nicely and kindly convince them. Not challenge them, no, nicely and kindly try to convince. Try your best, try to put wasata, someone to talk to them. Just keep trying and until they get convinced. At the end of the day, if you're logical and rational, they will get convinced because they want the best thing for you. So they will get convinced eventually, inshallah.
Thank you, Sayyidina. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Alhamdulillah, we still have lots of questions. We've hit 45 questions. Somehow got through 20. Alhamdulillah. Couple of questions coming on this topic. One of them is coming from the parents' point of view. My son wants to marry someone who isn't Muslim. What advice can you give me to change their mind? Or what's the problem with me marrying a Christian and then converting her?
What's the problem of a Muslim guy marrying a Christian lady, then converting her? Listen, it's your life, but probably, usually it doesn't work like that. Say, okay, what if you can't force her? What if she stays? What about your kids? Would they be Muslim or would they be, I don't know, Christian? If you're not that worried about that, go ahead. So it means that you're not that worried about your kids, your lineage. So if you're not worried, I can't make you worrying about your kids, about your future. But at the end of the day, we are talking to Muslim community. So at the end of the day, you might be able to find the appropriate person amongst Muslim community. Have you tried that? 10 times, 20 times, you couldn't succeed. You made proposal, but no one accepted. And then probably you can say, okay, I had no choice. This was my only choice. I didn't have any other choice. That's something else. But the first day, you're 21 years old, yes, this Christian lady is the best lady for me, and I will. No, if she's converted, that's something else. I will maybe try in the future to convert. That's something else. It doesn't work with us like that. Especially most of our scholars say you cannot get married permanently with a Christian lady. You cannot get married permanently. Most of our scholars say that. So how do you want to fix that problem? So you got a jurisprudence problem here, issue. How you want to fix that? So too many issues. And different culture, it's not only culture, different religion, how you want to fix all of those problems. And of course, you already will put yourself in problems and troubles because you are getting married. You need to build your community, your small community, your family, and you need to work. So how you want to do all of that job, taking all of those responsibilities? It's hard. It's hard. So in other words, you are not being that realistic. You're living in the hypothetical world. Usually it's like that. Always like that? No, of course. Always there are some exemptions. That's why when they say if you smoke you will get cancer, no. You're not going to. There is higher possibility of you getting cancer. Always some exemptions are there.
Thank you, Sayyid. We probably have time for 2 more questions. Some of the questions are about post-marriage, so I'll roll those questions over to tomorrow's session, inshallah. You mentioned temporary or permanent marriage. There's a few questions coming in about mut'ah and temporary marriage for different reasons. In general, what is the role, or where do we see the benefit of mut'ah? What kind of scenarios would we consider mut'ah over pursuing permanent marriage? I mean, some questions are saying, if I have difficulty with my finances, or I want to get to know someone, can I do mut'ah? Where does mut'ah fit into the equation?
No comments.
Wise response. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Focus on permanent marriage. You got enough challenges already. All right. Final question is on the process of getting married. And maybe we can just get your advice in general. You alluded to already. Keep the marriage simple, things like that. There's other things that happen in the process of getting married, like the mahr, the dowry. And I've spoken to some of the shabab who said, I don't want to get married because it's going to cost me so much. They're going to demand, $50,000. I don't know, $60,000. I don't know what the mahrs are these days. And some cultures also demand another dowry in the event that you're divorced. So they're already thinking about divorce as you're entering the marriage. And that's usually 3 times the amount, which of course can deter people. I mean, if I have to agree contractually to have set aside $100,000, $200,000, I'm gonna, it's gonna affect my relationship with my spouse. It's gonna affect my comfort in getting married. What should the dowry be? And just if I can add one more comment, and another reason parents often demand a large dowry is it's a pride issue. It's like, oh, that family, their daughter had a dowry of $60,000, mine has to be bigger than that. What are your thoughts on this whole dowry situation and making life difficult for our children?
Listen, dowry is something barakah. Even Imam Ali alayhi salam said, if you get sick, ask for your wife to give you some of her dowry and purchase some honey with it and mix it with the rainfall water, and then eat that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cure you. Okay? So, and then Imam Ali alayhi salam used some verses of Quran. So this is the whole idea of dowry. It's a barakah, but it's not a business. Okay? It's not an uncovered sword on the head of the husband. So anything happens, listen, I will divorce you and I will get the dowry. This is wrong. You're not selling your daughter. And that's why Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam say, Mehrus Sunnah. I don't know, Mehrus Sunnah probably is less than $1,000. And I can remember, I didn't know that. If I knew that, I wouldn't do the aqd back then. No, I wasn't here. It was in Hobart. I was asked to go to do an aqd there and come back. Usually I don't do aqd because too much problems, okay? So the dowry was a house. And I told the mom of the groom, what are you talking about? She said, no, I wanted to take it to keep it simple. I told her, what do you mean keep it simple? It's $1 million home you're talking about. It's a house, 1 million. No, I just guarantee. This is the problem. You want the husband to fear the woman? This is not a relationship. It's wrong. Wallah, it's wrong. Yani, not out of love. Out of fear, he has to keep continual living with this woman. This is wrong, man. If he has the love, he has to continue. This is the thing. So the dowry shouldn't be considered as leverage or as something to threaten the family and etc. This is wrong. We have to put an end on that. We are making it ridiculously hard on couple to get married. Dowry is something for barakah. You're not selling her. Seriously, if you want to sell your daughter, she's priceless. Not even $10 million. Not even $100 million. She is priceless. She is your daughter. She's from your heart. You can't sell her. Okay? No, you need what? I spent a lot on her. You want to take the dowry of her? Is that a business? So this is very ridiculous, to be honest. Very, very ridiculous. And I don't know. But if this disease is in the community, Shabab has the right to think about temporary marriage, to be honest. Much cheaper.
Big call. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you so much, Sayyidina. It's a difficult but important topic. Lots of questions still on the Menti. We'll try to get through some of them tomorrow. Tomorrow's Q&A will be post-marriage, so during marriage, how do we make the marriage relationship work? Look forward to seeing you all there. To end tonight, let us hasten the reappearance of the Imam while reciting Dua al-Faraj together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا